What is going on, Dominators? David Dominant here, and today we are here, and I am laughing. I'm watching a horror movie with my friends because it's Halloween. Happy Halloween! I hope you guys had a fun, safe time, no matter if you were partying or went and took your kids out trick or treating, everything, or if you went trick or treating. But as I'm watching the movie, I decided to, check my phone, text people, and blah blah blah. And all of a sudden, breaking news: Mike McDaniel's and the general manager has been fired from the Las Vegas Raiders. And what's funny about this is literally today, I finished a video and I was going to upload it tomorrow of head coaches I think that are on the the hot seat. And there was really only two: Josh McDaniels and the head coach for the Bears. Now, here's the deal. I was just talking about how in the video I said the reason why Josh McDaniels would be fired is because when you look at his resume, when you look on the resume on paper, it is not good as the head coach in this football league. It really isn't. I think he has one less win from last season, or his last time being a head coach. Here it is. The Broncos fired him in 2010 after losing 17 of his 28 games. This year, Josh McDaniels should be fired after losing 16 of his last 25 games. And the reason why this is just so big is because before we get to that, I want to read the official statement that the Las Vegas Raiders posted. The Las Vegas Raiders have relieved Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler of the duties as head coach and general manager. After much thought about the Raiders' need to move forward, I have decided to part ways with Josh and Dave. I want to thank them both for their hard work and wish them and their families nothing but the best, said Raiders owner, Mark Davis. Mark Davis, I think, is getting impatient. I think he is getting frustrated. The fact he has had these times with head coaches, he has to pay this guy now way more money for the next 4 years. He has to pay John Gruden. And the Las Vegas Raiders have been in just so disarray. Now, in 2021, when they fired John Gruden and then Rich Bisaccia, the special teams coach, became the head coach, that team wrapped around him. And I really liked him, and I actually thought the Raiders were going to consider maybe making him the permanent head coach, at least for 2 years, just basically what this was, to see what would happen. Carr loved him. Darren Waller loved him. Everybody loved him. So now, in this Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels era, they got rid of one of their star tight ends, Darren Waller, because there was, they had a problem with his health. They didn't like that he wasn't playing a lot, so they got rid of him. And obviously there was a little bash at him leaving the place, and it sucks. Then it took 1 year for Derek Carr to get ran out of town. And now it's to a point where Dave Ziegler made a big move. He went out and got Devontae Adams to bring him into this organization. You have weapons, you have pieces, you have a great team. But then think about it. Josh Jacobs didn't get a contract done. None of these guys got a contract done and taken care of. Now, there's going to be a lot of questions leading up to this. Number one being, what's the next step? Who's going to be the head coach? Who's going to be the GM? They're obviously going to figure out a GM probably first, is probably the obvious thing. They're going to find the general manager first, figure out what is next. Because what's funny is that when Hunter Renfrow didn't get dealt tonight, I was like, wow, they were like, he needs to go. He's not a bad player. It's the fact that they don't use him. So it's kind of like, why the hell do you have Hunter Renfrow? Just get rid of him at that point. You have a young tight end. Your offense isn't bad. You just have to get a better O-line, in my opinion. Like, you have great weapons at wide receiver. You have a good running back, and if you could re-sign him, which is going to be harder now. Listen, in my video when I was saying who would be head coach, here is what I said in videos previously. I think the Las Vegas Raiders need to do one simple thing. Sign mother effing Eric Bieniemy. Sign him to a contract. Sign him to a low-term contract as well. Like, I'm not saying like don't lowball him, say and get like 2-year contract. Like 4 minimum. Like, this 6-year contract was ridiculous. So now it's just like they did so much wrong in 2 years with the Las Vegas Raiders. It's not even funny. They got rid of Carr, who was basically the heart and soul of the team. You got rid of you just got rid of a lot of talent on your team. They never got better. They never looked good. Josh McDaniels, I have such an interesting situation with him because if he goes to does he go back to New England? But then where does Bill O'Brien go? I doubt he'll take a lesser role. Like, you would have to fire him, no? I assume he will take his tail between his legs and go back to the Patriots. I also would not be shocked if he waits to get a contract and maybe he goes somewhere else and plays under someone else's mind. A name I've already heard brought up is maybe the Steelers take a look at him. I mean, maybe it's not the fact that he's he's not a bad coordinator. It's the fact that he's a bad head coach. Like, you could be a good coach, but a bad offense. Like that's the thing. You could be a good coach in a position, but when you have to deal with every position, that's when it could become difficult. And I think the Las Vegas Raiders need to go into the route where I think Eric Bieniemy is the right choice. They need to look at a young piece. I think that this is going to be the first time ever in a long time where they're going to have a new general manager, a new head coach, and if I'm that duo, I'm getting a new starting quarterback named Caleb Williams. Like, I am going in on Caleb Williams. I don't think they'll do that, just because that's like a big move to make your first year, and I don't think they would do it. Although that if you get Eric Bieniemy, I think you have to get that first overall pick no matter who has it. And if they suck too bad where they do have that first overall pick, they'll be fine. But I think getting a guy who's trained a guy like Patrick Mahomes, helped build Patrick Mahomes what he is, and has worked with him, I think it would be, everyone keeps saying Caleb Williams is basically the next guy. I would bring that in if you had the first overall pick. Now, there's other guys. The guy from Washington just looks great. The guy from Oregon looks good. North Carolina looks good. This rookie draft class for quarterbacks is actually pretty good. And I think the Raiders need to consider going for a quarterback. I don't think Jimmy G's the right term answer. I didn't like him being brought in. I felt like you were getting a lesser version of Derek Carr because at least Derek Carr played the full season. I wonder where this puts everyone else and where the Raiders will be towards the end of the year. Like, where does Josh Jacobs now go? What does Devontae want now? Does Devontae just say, listen, now just send me to a contender? I think it's going to be whoever comes in, he has to get a feeling what's going to happen. I don't know what happens to Renfro. All I can think is the interim head coach, by the way, is the linebackers coach. And I don't know if they'll sign him. If he does great, I don't think. Well, I mean, hell, if he wins like every game and takes them to the playoffs, if I'm not making that mistake twice, I'm signing him to a deal and making sure that he stays as head coach of the of the goddamn team. But there's a lot of names to actually look at for the Raiders, and it's not just Eric Bieniemy, and it's not just you got the Bills defensive coordinator thinking about maybe getting a coaching job, and I remember I think they even talked about that on the Thursday night game. Another name to look at that I don't think a lot of people are gonna keep their eyes on, but what about the Vikings defensive coordinator? I don't know why I'm spacing his name. Brian Flores. Like, is that a name that possibly comes up? Like, maybe you need a defensive-minded head coach and just get a good offensive coordinator. Um, I would be interested in seeing if maybe they try to steal competition, if they give the offensive coordinator for the Chargers a chance. I really think if you're going to you're either going to get a well-experienced head coach or you are going in and getting yourself a head coach that you kind of believe in. Eric Bieniemy would be a first-time head coach. That would be, I think, a rough start for I think that's a rough situation for the Raiders. I'm just saying that the Raiders have had it rough, and what makes no sense to me is how the Raiders do business. And like, it's kind of sad to say, but like, I'm not even joking when I say this, but like, the Raiders fired John Gruden 3 years into his 10-year contract, and then and then Josh McDaniels is a year and a half in on his 6-year deal, and he's getting fired. Like, I think there's just a problem here, and the Raiders need to figure out a better way of doing business. And yeah, like I said, the first job is obviously going to sign. You got to sign a GM, right? And then next would be head coach. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think the Raiders might sell house? Do you think next offseason they're going to let Jacobs walk? Do you think they might send Devontae, Crosby, all of their biggest stars out of town to then build from within to try to make this new frontier? And maybe the Raiders do have to suck. I saw a funny comment where they were like, Becky Hammond should be the head coach. And I actually laughed about it because it was just like, he got Becky Hammond as the head coach of the Las Vegas Aces, and he's won 2 WNBA championships, and she in 2 seasons she's done that. So, yeah, I mean, the Raiders need to find a better way to do business, and if this anything, this is the first domino to fall. And I think we are looking at, when we see a new regime of a new general manager, I think the owner is going to say, listen, I want to push. I need you to push. We need to make this team a winner. And I think that the only way to do that is by doing 2 things: signing a veteran to a big contract, and like a Kirk Cousins would probably be the best bet, or maybe going out and get Justin Fields, or going to get Caleb Williams, are basically the Raiders' big options here. I think that they just need to get better defensively. I really just think it just takes the right person to really get this team running. And now I think I feel like a lot of pressure was off when Gruden was fired, and that's why they played so well, because it was just everything was simplified. And I think that that's going to be something similar for the Raiders. I think it's going to be a simplified game plan every single week now. And yeah, I'm interested on how this goes. Let me know what do you think about this situation? Who's the next head coach to go? Like I said, the Bears are the only other team that I figured they might fire their head coach at the end of the year, but we'll see. Another thing to be really interested in is when the crowd was like, "Be smart, be smart," or when the owner was saying, "Be smart, be smart." It's like, okay, yeah, you be smart, because this guy obviously has no clue what he's doing. So let me know what you guys think. Like this video if you liked it, comment down below. Dominate the world, Dominators. David Dominators out. Peace.